Hey everybody, welcome back to Volvara. I know it's been a terrible amount of time since I released the last episode, and I'll talk a bit more about that later in this episode. I have to admit, I actually did have to change my planning up a little bit as well, since I was planning to make this the last episode, but pretty much fate wanted that I had to spend much more time on this project than I ever conceived of. Which is, the standard, but even taking into consideration that things take longer than you expect, this did take longer than I expected. It would take longer than I expected. So, yeah, we're running into issues, basically. But this is, according to the current planning, which will hopefully work out, the second to last episode, in which we'll be working on a lot of detailing throughout the island. The basic shape is there, but I wanted to get some extra elements in, most of which are actually the propellers around the island, which are supposed to keep the island up. I know we've only got 2 until now, but I wanted to support the rest as well, and get some systems in place to somehow, in some kind of fantasy, be able to move these things around the island and rotate them, and use that as a ridiculous steering system for the island. I know it makes no sense, but we're talking a floating steampunk castle here, so I hope you don't mind too much. Now, the last episode, I guess you're wondering, is sort of planned to be the final detailing for the island, really getting the last gritty industrial elements in, not so much really shaping anything or adding anything to the island, really just getting the final touches in, and basically it means I get to put random stuff on the island wherever I kind of feel it can work, but also finishing the rest of the surroundings, so actually getting some sort of context to this entire island. Now, there's some bigger stuff that I want to talk about though, as I sort of get into supporting the first tower here and adding some details around that, because you're probably wondering what's been the holdup about Volvara or my upload rate in general, and since I don't really want to make an update video because I kind of feel like that's just kind of noise pollution on my channel, I'll try and explain it as quickly and as easily as I can in this video. I've just been really busy recently, without giving too many details, doing an internship somewhere far away, but not quite far away, and for such a long time that I was gonna get an apartment there. I probably should have, looking back at it now, because I spent full-time days, but also traveling 4 hours a day, plus all kinds of other things, which means that I don't have much time left for Planet Coaster, which is one of the reasons why my upload rate is so extremely low lately. But when it comes to Volvara in general, I've let a lot of other projects go before it, and there's a couple of problems that I'm stuck with at the moment. For one, I've got too many projects going at the same time. I started all of them kind of thinking I need more. I started Volvara because I didn't have a main own Planet Coaster series, but that just kind of really got filled up by Koali Beach and Garuda, both of which especially turned out to take much more of my time than I expected beforehand. But also some other stuff like Jägerhorn, which I probably shouldn't have started yet, looking back at it. And then there's all kinds of other stuff that I did in between, like, I don't know, appearing on other people's streams, doing Planet Bro Coaster, trying some other stuff in the meantime. It's hard to actually find time to get to work on Volvara again. And whenever I work on some certain projects, it really just means that my other stuff gets delayed by a lot more than I would have wanted. Now, another problem, and this is something that I've been wanting to get off my chest for a very long time, and I just want to get it out because I don't really believe in making YouTube a fake, happy, marketable place, is that I've just generally been very tired of the projects that I'm doing at the moment. You might very well recognize it. It's probably the one symptom that leads to many people starting new projects, and after working on it a little bit and maybe halfway finishing it, just abandoning it and starting something new. I'm really going through that phase as well at the moment, where it's more of a chore for me to work on these projects than it is actually fun, and a lot of it really has just become work. And while that doesn't mean I don't want to do it, I think personally it made the entire quality of what I make suffer in the end. And when I look back at some of the things I made earlier, I kind of feel bad about the fact that I like them more, but also they feel so much more the products of something fun. And this is, I guess, something that I wanted to give to everybody watching as well. Projects like Volvara at the moment for me are something that I feel really bad about, because even though I know that a lot of people watch it and a lot of people really enjoy the content, it's something that at the moment I don't enjoy making, and that's something I kind of feel guilty about, because it's perhaps what Planet Coaster should be about most. And I see a lot of comments from people also saying that these kinds of videos are demotivating in a sense, because they feel like they could never build anything like this. To which I would like to say, it's just a game in the end, and the most important thing is to have fun. And don't be like me, because this is actually a really bad example. Just have fun in the game and do whatever you feel like makes you feel like it's fun. And don't try to do something just because you want to get it done. And that's my major mistake with especially projects like these. Because no matter how good other people might think they look, or how bad other people might think they look, the only real opinion that matters about whatever you build is whether you like it and whether it's something that you enjoy building. And that's something that I'm not really going through with the stuff that I'm working on at the moment. And I don't want to end this on a sour note whatsoever, because I do want to finish these things. It's not that I'm completely tired of Planet Coaster, far from it. I still love this game. I'm just having to go through the chore of finding time and finding the will to actually finish these projects before I head onto things again that I have fun doing. But until that time, I'm I guess too determined to finish these things, even if I don't like working on them. And that's, I guess, simultaneously my biggest mistake and something I shouldn't do, but something I do want to do just to get this stuff out there. But that means that, I don't know, for me, the quality isn't as high and my upload rate definitely suffers. So if you're that kind of person who feels like you're watching this kind of stuff and you don't know what to do with this game and you might as well give up, just remember it's just a game, and the most important thing is to have fun and not be like me. But yeah, that's basically that entire story. The moral of the story, I guess, is that I will try to finish these things, but afterwards, hopefully get to some more fun things, but not trying to take the game too seriously and not trying to make everything too much of a chore. So yeah, to get back to the topic at hand here, which is probably the worst and most awkward transition I've ever had to do. The stuff that I'm doing at the moment is trying to connect these weird little parts of the track to the rest of the island, and it takes a lot of doing some custom supports, but also adding those weird machines everywhere and just combining all of the different objects into weird steampunky objects to try and connect the tracks to the rest of the island. Problem with these kinds of tracks was that they are very far away from the rest of the island, and there was really no way to kind of get to supporting these without building ridiculous machinery out of the island itself. So there's a bunch of things sticking out. Also something to, I guess, keep in mind is that the island is very small. It's a very narrow strip of land, so a lot of it has to be built from the outside to kind of support this weaving track here. So really, I'm just putting random objects together and seeing how well they work. Although for a few things, I've definitely tested them and they work out super well, sometimes confusingly well, such as the candy pieces, which have become many rings on these different machines. You might notice a lot of those pieces are cookies or whatever the names of those different items are. Not sure, I might look that up very quickly, but yeah, there's lots of different interesting objects in there that you wouldn't really otherwise expect you'd want to actually build machinery out of, and that's still one of my favorite parts of doing something like this. Not just the fact that you can completely ignore realism and do some crazy things, but just the way that you can, combine objects together in this game to make something that they're not at all supposed to be is something that I still love about it. Oh right, a lot of the machinery pieces that I use for the round sections particularly are the malted biscuits. Yeah, that's the pronunciation. The malted biscuits, which actually work out quite well. They have that sort of beige texture to it. I guess the jammy biscuits work out as well. You can kind of tell that this game is made by British people. And also there's some of those chocolate cups as well, which I'm not sure, they kind of look like Reese's cups, but maybe I'm too American or too European to even get what they look like. Okay, I have to look this up right now, but basically we've got all sorts of candies in there. So there's some interesting machinery going on. Some of the other pieces include some of the fountain pieces, or whatever you'd really call them. There's some of the statues and centerpiece elements that you can build all kinds of things out of. Oh yeah, they do look like Reese's buttercups. I guess they're peanut butter cups, which is something that still confuses me. Seriously, I've had them once, and I still don't understand how Americans like that stuff. But anyway, without getting too stereotypical here, that's basically what a lot of stuff is built out of. Now, I wanted to make a quick terrible segue into doing the bottom of the island here, and what is arguably the worst of ideas. I actually had to laugh at this quite a bit. Just the very fact that I decided to actually go through with this is something that still baffles myself as well. I've been thinking about the underside of the island ever since I started this project, because it's something that's quite challenging. You always... it's one of the challenges, actually, I think, of building a floating whatever. You normally don't really have to worry about what the things that you built look like from the underside, because you built them above the ground, so you don't really see that side. But with a floating island, there's this big lower part of the build that you see, but it's really hard to do anything with it, especially because building upside down is a bit tricky. But also, you don't want to get the focus there, but I also didn't want to make it just look like a floating simple rock. I wanted to do something with it. And whether I wanted to keep this shape or wanted to make an airship out of the entire build, I really wasn't sure. So the idea that I stuck with, and I know that planks have become kind of a meme on my channel at this point, so this is maybe the worst thing that I've ever done, but the idea that I stuck with was putting planks alongside the entire underside of the island. I know this doesn't do very well for my arguments that I've begun to feel kind of tired of building this stuff in Planet Coaster, but this was actually kind of amusing. I don't know why, there was something really funny about putting hundreds of planks on the bottom of a floating island. That was about the last thing I ever saw myself doing, but now that I'm doing it, it kind of makes sense in a way. But yeah, this is one big layer of coating on the other side of the island to give it that kind of otherworldly atmosphere to it, and also just get rid of that rocky texture, because I wasn't quite a fan of having a huge, intricate steampunk castle on top of a floating island and just leaving the floating island be normal. It had to be something weird and something mechanical steampunky, so a very deep reddish brown set of planks alongside the entire underside felt like something that would more or less fit the island, and hopefully this kind of texture with all of the different planks sort of going alongside the island in terms of rotation helps to give the island that sort of fantasy quality to it and make it seem a bit weirder, because in the end this is also, like I think I've said in some of the earlier episodes, this is really just a license to go crazy and do some stuff that you'd normally not even want to think about. So yeah, we're putting planks on the other side of this entire island, and if you're worrying about the time-lapse, I did cut quite a lot of time-lapse of putting planks down here out as well. I didn't even plank out the entire island yet. I still have to muster up the energy to actually do some of the remaining parts, but yeah, it was actually pretty funny to do all of this. It's also getting progressively harder to actually put commentary over it, because it's doing one single thing the entire time. If you're worrying about my mental sanity, by the way, at this point, I was just in a voice call with people having banter and stuff. In fact, I was in the Lady Designer stream at the time. That might also be why I was saying incredibly stupid things in the stream. I apologize. I say stupid things when I record Planet Coaster, and that's why I usually don't want to record Planet Coaster whenever I'm even being remotely social. It turns out bad, both for my social skills and for my Planet Coaster skills. But in this sense, you know, I just had to place blanks, so it was more or less fine. Anyway, with that weird little sidestep out of the way, one of the final things that I wanted to get to was putting some more, what do you call these things again? I know I've said it at the beginning of the episode. Yeah, some more of these propeller things at the side of the island and give them their own little moving around spaces, which still doesn't make much sense, but it looks pretty cool, so I figured I would just go for it. The inspiration for the shape of these things, believe it or not, was the spaceship from 2001: A Space Odyssey. I figured that would kind of fit. They're big, long sticks, but instead of having a huge ball at the end, they have this propeller, and I think it kind of works. At least they're quite pointy, and they add a bit of depth to the entire building as well. I wasn't quite feeling like there were enough towers in the building. I wanted more towery pointing things on the building, but I didn't quite want to make more towers because that would just become very ridiculous and Disney-like. So instead we're putting some propeller towers on the side here, which doesn't make it much better, but it's a bit crazier and weirder, so that works out quite well. And of course, and this is one of my main reasons, still an important philosophy in steampunk, is that the machinery that you see shouldn't just be gears that are slapped onto everything to make it look steampunk. In fact, using as little gears as you can to make something look steampunk is something that I always admire. But all of the machinery that you'd see should hopefully have some kind of function and some kind of purpose in the entire build that you see. So adding these kinds of propeller towers and adding all kinds of moving parts around that might not be great from a structural sense, and I'm sure that there might be some engineers or engineering students watching getting very mad at me, but at least it's a good way to add moving parts and all kinds of machinery in a sense that's actually, you know, with a very big suspense of disbelief, some kind of steampunk sense. Speaking of steam, I did want to add some chimneys as well, get some smoke coming out of that. Maybe we'll get to some steam again as well, just to get some extra particles in here, make everything look a bit more alive and interesting. And the same kind of goes for those random little details. I'm a big fan of these chains, just because they really fit the atmosphere, but they also allow you to put all kinds of random details in small nooks and crannies. But I also really like those cables and the other things that, you know, you can use to make things look a little bit dirty, make it look like everything's just kind of assembled in this haywire way instead of all neatly organized and put away like we do it nowadays, which is kind of interesting. One of the things about the steampunk theme that I tend to see is that all of the machinery and all of the moving parts and everything is very visible. It's very much out there. It's a part of the charm and the look of the theme, whereas nowadays everything tends to be very much hidden away. Look at a smartphone and all the important bits are invisible. The only thing you see is really just a flat piece of whatever material it's made of. And you see that with a lot of the stuff that we have nowadays. But with steampunk, everything that is mechanical and moves around and is a part of the living, breathing machine is something that is visible as well, which is something that I think is very interesting about it. Not that I advocate putting the inside of your mobile phone outside, but it's something that I always thought is quite interesting about the steampunk theme, and maybe what it gets part of its charm for as well. So on the other side anyway, we have this other propeller tower as well. It's not quite as big, and I wanted to find some other ways of actually putting this alongside the side of the building. So we've got some separate rails on one side, which doesn't make much sense. I still should support it from the other side, but we'll see about how that's going to work at some point in the future. To be honest, I'm not really too concerned about how this works properly, but in any case, we've got all kinds of moving parts, so that's pretty cool. Now that's been it for this episode of Volvara. So I would like to thank you guys so much for watching. Sorry about my huge monologue of being tired of this game. I definitely am not. I'm just trying to wrap up all of my current stuff and get myself together and get my shit together, which I'm being terrible at, so I just wanted to vent that. But hopefully we'll be fine in the end, and this will all be finished, and there's a cool project to look back at, and some more fun projects to start with. And that's something that I'm really looking forward to doing since a very long time. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next episode.